Hello, this is your video to help you fill out your notes on economics. This is a section of your Africa notes. It should be your last section of Africa notes. So this hopefully will help you out. So ask yourself, why are we discussing the economy with Africa, with our unit on Africa? And I think as we go along, it'll make itself clear. But think about that. Why are we discussing economics now? So, the system of how money is made in a country is called the economy, right here, the economy. All right, so make sure you fill that out. So, it's connected with many different things, and I am definitely not an economist. It's very complicated, but all you need to know for sixth grade, it's connected to how people make their money, whether they're providing services, like anything from fixing or repairing, building, or are having products, and how much money are people spending on things, and how much money are people saving, and all sorts of these things. So anything dealing with buying and selling and of goods is called an economy. Okay, and it's pretty complicated, but all you need to know is buying and selling. So sometimes, though, the economy is not equal all over the place. Okay, so we have something called inequality. So the difference between individuals or countries when it comes to wealth. So wealth is how much money you have. And not everyone has the same amount of wealth. Okay, so that's when we come to something called developed versus developing nations. So make sure you have these two words filled out. You should have economy, which is connected with things with how many goods people have and how many things are produced. And then wealth is basically how much money somebody has. Now, we can get philosophical. Money doesn't necessarily matter and how wealthy you are, but when we're talking about economics, it does. So developed countries have a very much an economic advantage. And we're going to discuss what's a developed nation versus a developing nation. Many developed nations are considered westernized. And that means that they have many of the westernized ideals that are influenced by North America and Europe. Many of them are very much capitalistic, meaning that you are making money through businesses and individuals. Like you have more freedom to make money on your own. Things aren't necessarily completely controlled by the government. More than likely, you have a democracy and you're making money. These are all Western ideals that come from the ancient Greeks and Romans and have kind of shaped our Western culture. And you're going to definitely learn more about that in seventh grade. So these developed countries have infrastructure, and that means they have laws. Things are structured. Infrastructure, think structure. So they have laws, and so fill out that word law. See if my mouse isn't working here. All right. So they have law, they have public health, and they have education. They have good organization. And this is because they have a good economy, and the good economy brings money where they can afford these things. So usually a developed country has the latest technology, has little poverty, and people mostly have jobs. They have a good education, and they have a high literacy rate. That means most people know how to read and write. Okay, that's very, very important. Stable government with peaceful transfer of power, an economy that supports itself, meaning they're not borrowing from other countries all the time, and access to health care and long life expectancy. So these are characteristics of a developed nation. For transportation, they have airports, trains, automobiles, public transportation, the best of the best. And then as housing, they have electricity, they have plumbing, they have heat and air conditioning, they have communication, modern convenience. Communication meaning they have internet or telephones or anything that you would need. So all of this is indicative of a developed nation. So this would be, as we look at the map on the website in the Africa unit, you could see by the pink and the red are considered developed nations. while the blue and the dark blue are considered more developing. Now, it's not all a blanket statement. Some countries, like the United States, is a developed nation. However, there's still poverty. There's still areas where there needs to be a lot of improvement and reform. So it's just kind of it can't blanket. Again, the economics is definitely complicated, but this is just one way of categorizing the world to understand it a little bit better. Again, this is just a brief overview. So developing nations are less developed or underdeveloped are those with low, middle, and upper incomes. So many of them have poor infrastructure. All right, little technology, high poverty and lack of jobs. They have a low literacy rate. Okay, they have unstable government, a poor economy where they always have to, rely upon perhaps the United Nations or other countries to help. And then many of these nations are also sometimes considered non-Western. Now, this might be a little controversial. So non-Western countries in Asia and Africa do not follow Westernized ideals, such as democracy and individualism. Many of these nations have a strong focus on family and Eastern tradition. So that's not to say they should be able to still keep their ideals and keep their identity and still improve their situation and become a developed nation. So this is going to be something that is going to be developing in the years to come, of this idea that the Western ideal is best for everyone. That might not be the case. So we'll have to see how that goes along. So their transportation might be something like animals, walking, bikes, small cars and trains. They have limited clean water, limited electricity. Many times homes are one room. All right. And then, so also, many countries do not want to be called westernized. They don't necessarily want it to become a democracy. They don't necessarily want to focus on the individual. They are proud of their traditions, and many see westernized ideas as selfish and immoral. So Westerners value economic and personal freedom. So with the rise of globalization, meaning that we're constantly influencing each other, especially through YouTube and TikTok, we're constantly seeing each other, more countries are being influenced by Western ideas. So globalization is the process of communication among people, companies, and governments of different nations. This is driven by international trade and investment made easier by technology. So we're going to be discussing this in class. This is a lot to unpack. So I definitely am not an economics major, but I want you to make sure that you have these notes filled in. Okay, and we'll be discussing this in class, and we have some visuals to look at. And please let me know if you have any questions at all. And this will be a good start to a project learning more about imports and exports.